Look, Trump, I agree with him. I don't think Trump thinks about this stuff in, let's say, technical details, if that makes sense. I think he has a sense that takes him in a particular direction or another direction, which could be good or which could be bad. Um, Looking at the world as multipolar on some level is an acknowledgement that the empire is degrading. Because otherwise, why would you need to look at the world in multipolar terms, if that makes sense? No, it's a fascinating conversation. I appreciate him for joining me. Let me go to my next guest, my man, Ted Rall.
Hey,
Ted Rall,
Jamal.
political cartoonist, syndicated columnist, host of TMI that starts at 10 a.m. with the beautiful, the great, the one and only, the magnificent, fantastic Manila Chan. What's going on, Ted? How you doing, man?
I'm good. How are you, Jamal?
I am doing good. Better that you are with me. There's a few stories I want to hit with you, and some of them I'm fascinated by. One, I have to start here. Trump's approval rating. Trump's approval rating. And I want your take on this.
Mm.
So this is CNN giving somewhat of a surprise report that they may not actually want to give, but they're giving it anyway.
It's important to do a little bit of reality check and take a little different spin at the numbers. I'm going to do that right here because all we talk about is how unpopular Donald Trump is. But in reality, he's basically more popular than at any point in term number one, and more popular than he was when he won election back in November of 2024. What are we talking about? His net favorable rating right now comes in at -4 points. Compare that to where he was when he won in November of 2024, when he was at -7 points, or March of 2017, when he was at -10 points. So when you compare Trump against himself, he's actually closer to the apex than he is to the bottom of the trough. And of course, that's so important because Donald Trump, historically speaking, has had his numbers underestimated. So I think it's very important to compare him to himself to understand he's actually more popular now than he was when he won, or
So despite everything that Donald Trump is doing, apparently he is more popular now than first term. And he's at the apex of his popularity now, even though he's slightly underwater. What are we to make of this?
Well, it's interesting that there's really any movement at all, right? Because sort of the general feeling was that everybody had solidified their opinion about Donald Trump. He's been center of our politics really for 9 years.
Mhm.
Not really throughout the Biden years. Political talk was more about the guy who wasn't president than the guy who was president.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, it's hard to believe that there's even any movement. We can only speculate unless we, get a deeper dive into these numbers and to try to get granular. But my suspicion here, and by the way, it's not unprecedented for a president to have a higher approval rating after they become president than when they were elected. That happened for Obama. Obama had basically a 60% approval rating when he was inaugurated, but he didn't get 60% of the popular vote. So it can happen. My suspicion here is that this is not because of what Trump is doing. It's because of the fact that he is doing a lot of things. There's a general sense in most presidential elections where there's a lot of promises and then there's not very much delivery or even really much attempt to deliver
Right.
after inauguration. I mean, for better or for worse, and there's definitely a lot of for worse. Donald Trump has been a busy little boy, and
Yes,
he's
yeah.
been up to a lot. And so, there's been I don't need to enumerate, but the point is he's been very busy. There hasn't been a day in the news where Trump didn't do something dramatic, often 2 or 3 things that were dramatic. So I think this is a core feature of this presidency is highly activist, a lot of motion, a lot of action. And that's something I think, American voters who were really, over the last 4 years, for example, it wasn't like that, right?
Yeah.
So people, I think that's what this is about. But obviously it could be something different entirely. I suspect those numbers are going to change. as the economy seems to be slowing down. Consumer confidence numbers just came out. Those are kind of startling. They're the lowest since the beginning of the Biden administration, January 2021.
Mhm.
That doesn't bode well. That was in the middle of a pandemic. We weren't feeling good about ourselves at that time. So we're not feeling people are going to be ramping back their consumer purchases. That's going to have an effect. AI is already killing some jobs. And we're due for a recession. So I don't know how bad it'll be, but I think we will see a downturn in the next year probably.
I agree with everything you just said, Ted. You're absolutely right. And I want to add something else to it. When people voted for Trump, I think they mostly voted for the economic boom. Like me, I think it was a few things. One, Joe Biden and Kamala Harris is not really offering anything. These two are one-to-one. Kamala Harris couldn't distinguish herself from Joe Biden. Joe Biden wouldn't let her distinguish herself from Joe Biden. If you remember that meeting where Joe Biden was like, "No daylight, kid." And I love that line. That's so Joe Biden, right? Even the kid part it's intimate, but intimate in a way that's manipulative. It's like, look, I need you to be a one-to-one with me, protect my legacy, protect what I'm doing in this administration. Even if you lose, you need to protect this legacy. Okay, well, fair enough. She did that and she lost. I think what they voted for Trump for was, we want economic relief. We believe you'll be a better steward of the economy. We want you to end the war. Like, I think it was in those terms, not to destroy Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, to fire all these federal workers, to go into a tariff war. I don't think they planned on that. But to your point, it looks like he's doing something. He's frenetic. He's being busy, even if he's doing stuff that you don't particularly like. This conversation took place. I was fascinated by it. My ex sent it to me because she wanted my take. And I was like, I'm going to use this video. She's like, oh my God, you're going to use the video? Yes, I'm going to use the video. It's a great video. Listen to the clash that takes place between Carol Levitt and the reporter who's asking a question that I have asked many a time. And I think many Americans are also asking.
Rest of the BRT when he was on the campaign trail. His big push was on tax cuts. Mm-hmm. He's going there today as he's proposing tax hikes in the form of tariffs.
Not true.
And I'm curious
he's not doing
why
that.
He's prioritizing that over the tax cuts.
He's actually not implementing tax hikes. Tariffs are a tax hike on foreign countries that, again, have been ripping us off. Tariffs are a tax cut for the American people. And the president is a staunch advocate of tax cuts. As you know, he campaigned on no taxes on tips, no taxes on overtime, no taxes on Social Security benefits. He is committed to all three of those things, and he expects Congress to pass them later this year.
I'm sorry, have you ever paid a tariff? Because I have.
They
don't get charged on foreign companies. They get charged on the importers.
And ultimately, when we have fair and balanced trade, which the American people have not seen in decades, as I said at the beginning, revenues will stay here, wages will go up, and our country will be made wealthy again. And I think it's insulting that you are trying to test my knowledge of economics and the decisions that this president has made.
Okay, it's not insulting. There's that. Especially since what she's saying, she's lying through her teeth. And in that statement, she admits that she's lying in an indirect way. When she makes this argument, yeah, tariffs, blah, 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 blah. And then at the very end, she says, ultimately, the American public will, be better off when we have higher wages, more jobs, etc. Okay, the ultimately is the tail, right? Because ultimately means that you're talking about in the end, meaning when everything is done, when everything is said, when everything is finished, we will be better off. But that also means that this is kind of a Boris Johnson answer, where Boris Johnson is talking about Brexit, Fortress Britain, all of this stuff, and then goes into a private meeting and somebody records Boris Johnson saying, oh, it's going to hurt. it's going to be painful for a decade. It's that. It's the ultimately that tells, okay, this is not something that is going to be pretty or great. And the numbers that you pointed to that's leading into a recession, it's what Trump is doing. And I think that is going to be something that is not necessarily going to be in the best interest of America, because I don't think all of these countries that Trump is having a trade war with is just going to accept the fact that Trump is having a trade war. It is very possible that those countries say, bring it, screw it. Sovereignty matters. Trump is not going to be able to change the global order. They wanted this globalism stuff. Now they're trying to protect. We're not going to accept it. So I could be wrong. Give me your take on this. I mean, maybe I'm reading too much into ultimately, but the reporter is right. The tariff is paid by the importer. We pay that. And the companies tend to change or up the price in order to make sure we pay it, not the country. Give me your take on this.
Yeah, I mean, I think. Look, this is an interesting topic for me because I grew up in the Rust Belt. I'm from Dayton, Ohio, which was a city that was absolutely devastated by globalization and deindustrialization. So I'm highly sympathetic to the argument in favor of protectionism of American jobs.
Yeah.
I really do think, I believe, that the first job of the American government is to protect American people, including American
Agreed.
workers. So I'm sympathetic to the tariff argument. I think the problem is the administration is kind of caught in a bind because they can't do tariffs and fight inflation and fight high prices, more to the point, at the same time.
Right.
And they know that. And the thing is, although I do think that producers of goods and services, they tend to, when there's higher costs like tariffs, they tend to try to absorb some of them to try to keep price points from not going much higher than like their competition. But still, they're going to pass a significant amount of it on to consumers. There's no way that, say, Chinese exporters are going to absorb all the costs of tariffs on Chinese goods imported into the United States. It'll be shared, and so
Agreed.
prices. It will have there's no doubt tariffs have an inflationary effect. Maybe not as it's not 100%, but it's there, and so this is this is not what the president campaigned on. This is definitely a bait and switch, and I think that this president is a very canny. Has been a person who has been able to figure out the pulse of the American people, or at least, of the Republican voters. I don't know that. I think he's misreading things here. I think people were looking for immediate relief. I mean, it's so, like immediate in the form of not even reduced prices, but some kind of government subsidy, like the COVID paycheck payments. That would something like reviving that would be a smart move. You can't make prices lower. Then you go into a deflationary spiral. All you can do is try to keep inflation under control. The prices we've got now are baked in. They're going to keep ticking up. We just don't want them to tick up at the same rate that they were going up before. So and I think he's also not being good at communicating with the American people. I mean, people asked for action, but nobody understands what the hell is going on. I mean, he doesn't have a fireside chat type of message that explains, okay, so listen, I know I promised this, but here's, unfortunately, if I don't do these tariffs now, I don't know what kind of Congress I'll have next year. I've got to do it now. This is something that's really important. I'm asking you to support me. He doesn't have that communication strategy. Right. I think he's going to pay a price for this. I think it's going to be a problem. The issue is really both parties are going to be in trouble because the Democrats are, worthless right now, and so they can't pick up the pieces. But unfortunately for them and for us, but the Republicans are, they're going to pay. I mean, people are going to be pissed, and it's not going to take that long. Right now, look, it's March. The president took office just over 2 months ago. People, this is the honeymoon period. It's cool. But, in America, you get about 6 to 9 months. That's it. By this fall, winter, people can't afford as many Christmas gifts for their kids. They're going to start getting upset.
Yeah, I agree with you. I am sympathetic to Trump on this because I agree with you, right? Like, part of what he wants is to bring jobs back to America.
Yeah.
But you're trying to do that after 50 years of globalization. And I'm saying 50 years.
It's kind of too late.
Yeah, it's like it feels like the horse is out the barn. And this notion
That's
of
right.
trying to like, okay, we're trying to reach, we need to protect American business. We need to force companies to come back here because they're going to pay a price if they don't. It, as Richard Wolff pointed out, it is very expensive for a company to move, and there's going to be a new president in 3 years. So why would they do that? It's going to be
Right.
something like that, right? And so I understand why he's doing it. I agree with you that he hasn't necessarily communicated to the American public. And to be honest, he's not the most coherent communicator anyway.
Not at
So
all.
I don't know how that would work, even if he tried. JD Vance kind of communicated it, making the point of saying globalization went awry and we need to do something different. But I don't think America's going to care. I think what they're going to see is my prices have gone up.
Mhm.
I put him in office in order to lower my prices, and things are more expensive. I think it's going to be that.
I think I honestly, this is, Donald Trump is the oldest man to have ever served as president of the United States. And this is coming after a guy just had to withdraw as president, running for re-election because he was too old, right? Well, Trump got elected older than that guy. So Trump's an old dude.
Yeah.
And I think he's just like, he's stuck in the narratives of the past. He's obsessed with what went wrong in the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Fair enough. I'm obsessed with what went wrong in the 80s, 90s, and aughts. I get it, but it's like not. If you're really summarizing the issue here, the real issue is, and I know you'll like this analogy. It's a Star Trek analogy. So, in several episodes of the original series, they land on a planet where it's like, oh, well, you don't have jobs. No, we don't work anymore. We achieved so much efficiency, and computers do everything for us now. So we just devote ourselves to pleasure and learning, and we just have a good time. And maybe it's a pleasure planet. Maybe we're all intellectuals. Whatever. The point is, whether you're having a lot of sex or reading a lot of books or both, the point is that you don't have to work anymore, but you still have money coming in. Okay, so I'm sure when I watched that as a kid, I remember just thinking, well, that's nirvana, right? That's utopia. Well, even Elon Musk, before he got involved in all this mishigas, he was saying the same thing with AI. And we've seen this trend. Basically, the powers that be, the elites, they don't need us anymore to extract our surplus value. The surplus, the efficiencies created by AI and automation and robotics and all these other machines has gotten us to the point where the workforce can be smaller and you can still have a GDP that keeps increasing. We're looking at that as a problem because that means that we don't need as many workers. That's not a problem. That's an opportunity. And to get like one of those Star Trek planets, we should be aiming for that. We should start to be telling people either, well, we're going to a 20-hour work week, or, so we share it all, or we should detach. This is the smart move. Like, we don't, in the same way that healthcare doesn't need to be attached to work. That's why. It's like pay should not have to be attached to work. You should be, as a citizen of a wealthy country with an increasing GDP, who cares why it's raising? You should be like, like the people who lived in Alaska. Just for being Alaskan, they got pipeline money. Just for being American, you should get paid. And just so that you can pay your landlord and buy a car every now and then and go to the movies. That's what we need. That's the future. Elon Musk knows that. And that, it's Andrew Yang knows it. Forward-looking people know it. Donald Trump doesn't understand it. If he did, I think if he got behind it, if he could be made to understand that, we'd see something. The problem is that he's like, for whatever reason, nobody's like convinced him or explained this to him. He's hidebound to an old way that's doomed, because AI is, as long as you tell people you have to work in order to live, but then you tell them you can't work because there's no jobs, well, then you're telling people there's no hope for them, and the economy is going to fall apart.
Yes. Richard Nixon knew it. If you remember, Richard Nixon wanted to have a reverse income tax.
Yep.
I forget what the exact amount was, but basically, whatever you don't make up to that amount, the government sends you a check for it. I agree with you. This has been one of those things that I've always been, well, I can't say always, but over a decade, I've been fascinated by. Jack Fresco has the Venus Project. And his idea is to move forward with this idea of technical revolution of the world, effectively saying the world is a common resource. All of us own all of the resources of the planet. Like, how do you say that you own or don't own something? Nobody gave it to you. You had to take it by force of arms, most likely. And his thing was, look, we can revolutionize the planet. We are so built into this issue of survival that it is hard for us to see somebody not working. Like, it's just, it doesn't compute. And yet, at some point, as you pointed out, all of these Uber drivers are going to be fired. All of these truck drivers are going to be fired. Your checkout lines are going to get less and less to the point where you're going to be doing it in an automated sense. Many of the jobs are going to be eliminated that don't need to be there because AI is going to be able to do it. Okay, we're going to have to figure out as a society what to do about that, because when AI is doing the jobs, we're not going to get paid. And it's a social issue. It's not a technical issue, it's a social one. And I don't think we can wrap our heads around it yet, at least not at this point. I guess the pain hasn't been enough to do so. One of the things that they're talking about, though, is no tax on tips. If you notice, she said this is what the president wants: no tax on Social Security, no tax on tips. And even going further and saying, or not saying it, but they're in the middle of budget reconciliation as we speak. And Trump has pushed this idea of no tax on tips. I'm fascinated that this is coming out of a Republican. And maybe it shouldn't be. I mean, it is tax, but usually they just give themselves tax cuts, not the overwhelming majority of workers in the country a tax cut. And that tax cut could be $20,000, $30,000, depending upon the job. Give me your take on that, Ted. I mean, does that destroy the Democratic Party if they get that through and it's a Republican plan? Meaning, if you go to your bank account and you find, hey, I get to keep $20,000 for my YouTube money, okay, that's a big deal. Or hey, I get to keep $30,000 for my waiter job because the overwhelming majority of money get our tips. That's a big deal. Does that destroy the Democratic Party?
I think the Democratic Party is destroyed by something bigger that this is a reflection of, which is that the Republican Party, again, this is the theme here, the Republican Party is moving, they're doing things, they're moving fast. Democrats are not promising anything. They're not coming up with any kind of agenda. I mean, could you tell me, I mean, no one could tell me, but Jamal, could you tell me if, we snap our fingers and tomorrow morning, there's a Democratic president, House, Senate, and Supreme Court. Can you tell me 3 things they're going to do in the next 6 months? I can't. And I can't tell you one. So, I mean, maybe just guarantee more aid to Ukraine. Probably that's about it. But what are they going to do? Nobody knows. So, I mean, the thing is, I actually think the no tax on tips thing is not as powerful as, for example, saying that the minimum wage for tip work should be at the same level as for non-tip work. There should be no such thing as a sub-minimum wage. That's nonsensical, right? I mean, what if you don't get tipped? What if people don't like the cut of your jib and you're a waiter? I mean, you don't get paid? That's ridiculous, right? So, only America has this strange system. So, where it's kind of like, well, you have to be like really, good at getting tips or something. So this is I don't think being charming should be a job requirement necessarily for living. But anyway, it's very, I think the fact that they have these ideas and the fact that, they're getting stuff done is really what is their superpower against the Democrats. And, I can't believe Democrats can't figure that out. It's like, you guys gotta you gotta do something for the people, right? Like, remember Kamala Harris's campaign slogan for like blink and you missed it, but it was like Kamala Harris for the people.
Yeah.
Get it? It's a double entendre. She was a prosecutor. Okay, but the point is, for the people is key, right? Like Donald Trump says he's doing things for the people. I mean, that's not always true. The tax cuts are not for the people. But I mean, still, he says it. And some of these things seem to ring true. Even like the nativism, the chasing down of of migrants, and even the stuff that I just can't stand, going after the Gaza protesters with green
Yeah.
cards. It's framed as something that's protecting the American people. The Democrats can't even get the messaging together. Forget about the policy planks. It's kind of shocking, because it's like, you guys are a major political party, right? You were founded in 1824. You've been around for 200 years.
And a party on the left.
They didn't even, by the way, how interesting is that? They're so lame. They didn't even celebrate their 200th anniversary last year. They forgot to mention it.
Are you serious? That's so sad. It's a party on the left, and I'm going to let you go, but it's like, left-wing parties are supposed to be the political energy, right? I mean, the Conservative Party is, we want to keep things relatively the same. Tax cuts, okay, fair enough. We don't believe in government all that much. But the left-wing party is the party that's, we want Medicare for all. We want to do these big things. Social Security, Medicare, Medicaid, all of this stuff come out of the left. Civil rights, all of this stuff come out of the left. And they've gotten to a place where they're like, we don't, just complete shambles. Republicans came out with Project 2025, whatever you think about it, it's at the very least putting something out saying, this is what we want to do. These things are egregious, and yet they still put it out saying, this is what we want to do. There's nothing like that. I agree.
Well, that's because for decades, Democrats their whole framing has been that we're here to protect the gains that we achieved in the distant past against the evil Republicans who are trying to cut them. And they just, that's basically where they got stuck. It's like,
but that's not the way to protect gains.
That's not, yeah. It's not good politics. I mean, yes, you protect what happened before, but the thing is, let's just say you're pushing to build on those gains, previous gains, then exactly. It's already a given that those are baked in, and you don't have to protect them. Exactly. If you just play defense all the time, then they say that in politics, if you're playing defense, you're losing.
Right.
And that's what's been happening.
Ted Rall, political cartoonist, syndicated columnist, host of TMI, Too Much Information with Manila Chan, at 10 a.m. to 12 a.m. Monday through Friday. Check him out immediately after the show. Ted, where else can people find you? Did I get that right? I want to make sure.
No, you did. That's all correct. And also the DMZ America podcast with Scott Stanton.